Hello and welcome back for another history lesson. In this lesson we're going to talk about an old lumber town that seemingly vanished. Your support means a lot to the channel, so I want to ask you to please like, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out on future uploads. Let's get started. Have you ever heard of Michigan's Pompeii? Singapore, Michigan was founded in 1836 by Oshia Wilder, a New York land speculator. Wilder had purchased the 100 acres of land with big dreams and hopes to build a major port city to rival Chicago or Milwaukee. The town was established along the mouth of the Kalamazoo River, surrounded by acres and acres of white pine forests. In 1837, a year after its founding, the first sawmill was built, and the following year they opened a local bank. In 1842, just a few years after its founding, Singapore was struck by a brutal 40-day blizzard. Food ran low and hope dwindled. Legend says the desperate townsfolk survived only thanks to a lucky shipwreck. The schooner Milwaukee, loaded with barrels of flour, wrecked offshore, and several barrels washed up near Singapore, providing critical sustenance that saw the settlers through the epic winter storm. Despite such hiccups, Singapore pressed on and prospered as demand for lumber soared in the mid-19th century. Wilder deserted the town in 1846, moving back to Calhoun County. Unfortunately, Wilder died in Eckford. James Carter of New York bought out Wilder's interest in the town and moved there to oversee his investment. It was only 2 years after that Carter sold the town to his brother, Artemas and Francis B. Stockbridge. Artemas was more innovative than his brother, and very soon after arriving, he and Stockbridge built the first three-masted schooner on Lake Michigan, dubbed the Octavia, to carry lumber from Singapore to Chicago. At its peak, this frontier settlement boasted a few hundred residents, multiple sawmills, a hotel, general store, a schoolhouse, and busy docks shipping lumber out across Lake Michigan. By the mid-1850s and 1860s, Singapore was a bustling lumber town riding on the trade. The town's fortunes were tied firmly to Michigan's timber production. In 1871, the Great Chicago Fire tragedy had killed approximately 300 people, destroyed roughly 3.3 square miles of the city including over 17,000 structures, and left more than 100,000 residents homeless. Singapore was ready to help, supplying immense quantities of wood to help rebuild Chicago, which by the way, was nearly 100 miles away. All that rebuilding meant big money for Singapore's sawmills, which feverishly cut timber into boards, shingles, ship masts, and more. According to Dr. Eric Golinek, director of the Saugatuck Douglas History Center, the post-1871 period was an incredibly prosperous time for Singapore's lumber business. Because there's all these fires, and it's America's wooden age, every part of a building is coming from a tree in one form or another. For a few years the small lumber town thrived like never before. But unfortunately the very success that made Singapore boom would also be its downfall. The lumber mills, which had been Singapore's lifeblood, began to shut down. By 1875, the local timber supply was effectively exhausted. There were literally no trees left to cut. In the same year the town's largest sawmill was dismantled and hauled off by boat to St. Ignace in the Upper Peninsula. Once this happened, the mills closed, and residents began to leave for nearby Saugatuck. With the town's economy collapsing and nature about to exact revenge, Singapore was hanging on by a thread. The dense acres of pine that once sheltered the town were quickly vanishing. The combined effects of deforestation, fierce Lake Michigan gales, and relentless sand contributed to the town's demise, officially vacated in 1875. After just 4 years, without any tree coverage protecting the once booming home to hundreds, it was now completely covered in sand. Although, there is the stubborn man who is a local legend figure. According to the legend, a lone resident living in a 3-story house refused to leave as the encroaching sand dunes swallowed the town. He remained in his home even as the sand covered the first, then second floor, moving his belongings from floor to floor as the sand rose. He only abandoned the house once the sand had completely reached the roof. Another popular local legend is of the Lady in White, however this story has nothing to do with the original vanishing of the town itself. I wanted to take a moment to thank you for still being here. A reminder to like, subscribe and leave a comment below to let me know how I am doing. Okay, back to it. While the town of Singapore itself vanished, it did not completely die. Its legacy lives on in Saugatuck. A lot of Singapore's former residents and businesses became part of Saugatuck's story. When Singapore was abandoned, several buildings were saved and relocated rather than let them be buried. In the winter, townspeople slid a few houses and at least one large building, the Singapore Bank, down the frozen Kalamazoo River to Saugatuck. Without that act, we wouldn't be able to visit these structures of the past today. The most famous moved is the Singapore Bank, which still stands on Butler Street in downtown Saugatuck. This sturdy structure once housed Singapore's first bank. Notorious for its currency, the bank's currency associated with Singapore, Michigan, refers to the obsolete, privately issued banknotes from the defunct Bank of Singapore, which existed in the 1830s. This was a wildcat bank that issued its own paper money not fully backed by gold or silver, a very common practice in that era. These old banknotes are now collectible items, with examples of $1, $2, and $5 notes from the Bank of Singapore still in circulation as historical artifacts. Crazy to think that the old brick walls once safeguarded the bank's affairs. You can visit the old Singapore Bank building. Walk on down Butler Street and you'll find the structure still standing. It's no longer used as a bank, however, it is used as a bookstore, art gallery. It's a rare treat to stand inside an original Singapore structure, knowing of the town's history. There are a couple homes that were also originally built in Singapore that were moved via the river. They've been preserved and now blend seamlessly into picturesque local neighborhoods. Thanks to these remnants, Singapore's story is woven into Saugatuck's physical fabric. By the early 1900s, the once busy waterfront known as Singapore was quiet, with only chimneys and roofs peeking out from the ever-growing dunes. The dramatic and rapid engulfment of the town creates a sense of mystery and loss, leaving a powerful historical and emotional imprint. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Your support means a lot. If you enjoyed this lesson, please consider sharing, like and leave a comment, letting me know what else you'd like to learn about. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future uploads. Thank you again for watching. Please check out some other videos on the channel. Until next time.